My name is Mike Papali, and I am the president and founder of In a Heartbeat Foundation. When I was a kid growing up, my dream was to play college basketball, and I was a completely healthy kid, never had any signs or symptoms that I could possibly have something wrong with my heart. And my whole life was basically revolved around basketball, so I played it, every day, all throughout the summers. I was on a ton of different teams, and between my junior and senior year of high school, I started to get recruited. I had all these college coaches reaching out to me and sending us letters and calling my parents and basically giving their pitch as to why I should come to their school. And it felt really cool because I was like, okay, my dream to be a college basketball player is about to come true. And that particular summer, I was 17 years old. I was working at my dad's basketball camp with my brother. I was 17 and he was 13. And on the Wednesday night of the camp, we decided that the next morning we were going to wake up early and we were going to do a basketball workout before we went to the camp. So the next morning, August 24th, 2006, I woke up like 6 in the morning. My brother and I ate breakfast. We had one of our friends come pick us up and bring us over to a local high school gym where we went through like an hour-and-a-half basketball workout, and it was completely fine. Nothing was out of the ordinary, nothing stood out. I didn't feel weird, didn't feel bad during the workout. After the workout ended, we got back in his car. We went over to the Wallingford Parks and Recreation Department where the basketball camp was being held. We got there at about 8 in the morning, and I walked in. I said hi to my dad, I changed my shirt, and I ordered my lunch, and that's the last thing I remember from that day. About 2.5 hours went by. I did a bunch of stuff. I was coaching kids. We were playing games, we were outside. I don't remember any of it still to this day. At about 10:30, I was sitting on the bleachers. My best friend was sitting next to me. My brother was on the court, reffing the game, and I just kind of basically face planted on the ground and fell forward and went into sudden cardiac arrest. And the only way you can survive cardiac arrest is you need immediate CPR, and you have to be quickly shocked by an automated external defibrillator. Unfortunately for me, no one gave me CPR right away, and the building I was in did not have an AED on site. So those two factors made my chances to survive really, really slim. I was really lucky that somebody called 911, and when they called 911 in the building next door, there was a volunteer EMT, and he was sitting at his desk on his computer, and the 911 call came through. He got it, he saw it, he recognized the address, and he came over and found me. My dad, my brother, and my best friend were just kind of watching because they didn't know what was going on. And I was turning blue and I was agonal gasping, which they say are the last breaths you take before you're about to die. And he started doing CPR. He saved my life, saved my brain. He did CPR for a long time. Eventually an ambulance came and they were able to run in with a defibrillator, shock my heart back to a normal rhythm, and rush me off to a hospital. I don't remember any of this. I was unconscious for 2 days after, but I ended up at Connecticut Children's Medical Center in Hartford, and the first thing I remember is being diagnosed, or being basically put through a bunch of tests to figure out what the diagnosis was and what caused sudden cardiac arrest. So I had an EKG, an echocardiogram, a cardiac catheterization, cardiac MRI, and they diagnosed me with a heart disease called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, which is basically in a large heart muscle. And they told me that I'd never play basketball again. So before I left the hospital, they surgically implanted it's called an implantable cardioverter defibrillator, also known as an ICD, which would serve as my internal device. So if I ever went into cardiac arrest again, it would shock me and it would save my life. So I spent about 14 days in the hospital. I went home and basically kind of had to figure out how to navigate through my life, and lost a major portion of my life, which was playing basketball, but got through my senior year of high school, went to Quinnipiac University as a student, and started working as a student manager with the basketball team, and decided that I wanted to coach college basketball as a living. So, I worked for the team for 4 years. I got really lucky that when I graduated, I was offered a coaching position at a school called UMass Lowell. I spent 1 year there, and then a position opened up at Quinnipiac, and I was hired back to be a part of their coaching staff. And everything was going really well. I was feeling really good. But after 8 years had gone by after my cardiac arrest, it was time for me to get the battery on my ICD changed, which is normal. They have to get changed every 8 to 10 years. And it's a really simple procedure. Basically, when you go in to have this procedure done, they test the device. So they want to make sure it works. So they actually have to put your body in an arrest and wait for the device to kick in. And they have backup plans in case it doesn't work. So they did that and the device wasn't working. So the next day they went in and they made some tweaks and they added another wire to try to add more power with the device. And everything worked fine and they sent me home. During one of those 2 surgeries, I didn't know this at the time. It didn't show itself for about a month. I'd caught an infection. And I was out one night with my friends and I started just itching my chest and didn't feel right. The whole night it was bothering me. I went home and when I changed, I noticed that my chest was red and swollen and just didn't look normal. And I called my doctor. He put me on some medication and it went away. And then another couple weeks go by and I was up all night with a severe fever, going back and forth between freezing cold to sweating, to freezing cold to sweating, and called my doctor again. And he told me that I had to come in because he knew at this point that my device had gotten an infection. And unfortunately what happens when an infection settles on metal in your body doesn't have the capability of fighting it anymore. So in order for the infection not to get into your bloodstream, they have to remove the metal from your body. So they had to do take out the battery, which is pretty simple, but they also had to extract the wires, also known as leads, which were touching my heart. And a lead extraction consists of them using a small laser to carefully extract these leads off a person's heart because so much scar tissue has built up around the leads over the course of time. And one of the risks is that this scar tissue, it could rip. And if that happens, your heart's going to start bleeding and there's a chance that your heart could rupture and you could die in surgery. And what they do if this happens is they perform emergency open heart surgery. So I went in to have this surgery done and as they were extracting the leads, unfortunately the scar tissue ripped and they had to perform emergency open heart surgery, basically to save my life. And came out of the surgery, spent some more time in the hospital, spent 6 weeks at home, and after 6 weeks they implanted a new subcutaneous implantable cardioverter defibrillator, which surgery went perfectly, and it's what I have to this day, and it's been working ever since. So while I was sitting home during those 6 weeks doing absolutely nothing, I realized that my family and I, we had talked about starting a nonprofit for years, ever since my original cardiac arrest, and I knew that this was the time to do it. So after I recovered, we founded In a Heartbeat, and we made our mission to prevent death from sudden cardiac arrest and hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And we started figuring out how we wanted to do that, and we created our AED donation program, where we donate AEDs to schools, businesses, organizations, and families in need. Along with donating, we provide training and to make sure people know how to use the AED and know how to perform CPR, and we help set up emergency action plans to ensure that if someone goes into cardiac arrest, they have the best chance of surviving. The other program was we wanted to help further the overall knowledge of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, so we call it our HCM research support program. So we support research projects that basically focus on the disease and help, figure out new treatments and basically ensure that patients are living a very long and normal life with the disease, which is a very possible thing that can happen. So we donate money each year to these research projects. We also support patients all over the world that have heart disease, that are cardiac arrest survivors, that have a implantable cardioverter defibrillator, and also their families. And the last thing we do is we have a cardiac screening program where we screen children, teens, and young adults for heart disease. So we offer free EKGs, and we try to detect heart disease early before a young person is in a cardiac arrest, which is a very serious life or death situation. So if we can detect these diseases prior to that happening, we can prevent the person from suffering from sudden cardiac arrest. In a Heartbeat exists to prevent death from sudden cardiac arrest and hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. To learn more about In a Heartbeat and our different programs that we offer, you can visit our website at www.inaheartbeat.org.